Hi guys, I'm gonna do a little thing on the floor today. Let me get one thing first. Here we go. Okay, DX9. I promised you guys a video about it. And what makes this speaker so good? Well, I like both these. Just so you know, I like the AT and I like the DX9 and I like the other ones too. What makes this DX9 so good? Well, before I go into that, let me just get rid of the bad stuff right away. Why? Well, not bad stuff, but why I don't like it. The only reason I don't like it as much as the AT has nothing to do with the sound. I just think the AT series looks so much better. When you look at the DX9, it looks kind of dull, a little bit boring. That's the only thing I have against it. So that's it. That was the bad stuff. Now over to the good stuff. Let's start on the top. Tweeter. A horn. A very directional horn. So when you sit, it doesn't matter how far away you sit away from the speaker. The high frequencies from that tweeter will hit you pretty darn fast and straight on. It's how it's built up. It has a double layered horn in there with an outer ring and a pointy little, what can I call it, like it looks like an airplane engine. And the way it just projects the sounds out is awesome. Compared to the AT, which has a dome that spreads the sound more sideways and then fills up the room. This one just shoots the sound out. It had to be like that. If you had put a AT series tweeter in this model, this speaker would not sound the way it does. It wouldn't match. So here we're talking again. You heard me say it before. Match your speakers to your amps and match your amps to your speaker. But when you build a speaker, you also have to match the drivers. So it's very important that you match your drivers. And that's why they did what they did with the AT. That's why they did what they did with the DX. And I'm going to explain why they did this with the DX. They had to use a tweeter like this because of the mid-range and the big boy in the basement down here. This woofer is bad boy. Compared to the AT. And there's certain things here that doesn't add up. You know, you can look at it and it will not add up. So, the tweeter, a horn, very directional, it plays loud, it takes a lot of abuse and a lot of power to be a tweeter. So why did they use a tweeter like that? Because of this bad boy. This is the mid-range in the DX9. Darn big one. Good structure on the magnet, pretty heavy. Well, the basket could be better, but it's okay. But take a look at this. It swallows. If you do like that, it swallows the one mid-range at the AT easily and it's a little bit of the other one. So this one is pretty darn good. And if you look at the build-up on it, it has the riffles like this woofer on the AT has. And that has a very, very distinctive influence on the sound. In fact, it does. It is proven that many think that, oh, the sound comes out from the whole speaker. No, the speaker is programmed in a way or built up in a way to project the sound from a certain area of the cone and certain frequencies from certain areas on the cone. Not every frequency is coming from the same spot on the cone. So some frequencies are further in towards the middle and some is further out to the outer edges. So how you build up a mid-range or a woofer, it's a big deal. And I will explain that later on with the woofers. If you look at the surround on this one compared to the surround on the AT has what I call the Pro Audio. It has the small riffles, which doesn't make it move or have any X-Mass at all. A lot of people say, well, mid-ranges doesn't have X-Mass. Yes, they do. They sure do. These, not so much. They have the flat, riffled, I think it's 2 or 3 of them. Very, very, very little movement on those mid-ranges. Look at this one. It's almost like a 6.5-inch woofer or a subwoofer. It has a high curve, it has a wide curve, which is again made for this mid-range to move about. That takes this mid-range up to a different level than these. This one can operate in a lower frequency register than these can. And it can do it with force. It will move the sound in the air way better than these. That's why they use 2 smaller ones here. So these 2 small ones here, kind of like they think will compensate for one of these, but it doesn't. But it has a different sound, and it was built for a different sound, and this one was built for a different sound than this one. So it can't really be compared. So that you have a mid-range that is fairly wild, fairly good. I want to say rock solid good. It's one of the better mid-ranges Cerwi-vega ever made, along with the VS150, which is about not that much of a difference. So you have these 2 on the top that is very matchable. They're matched. They are filling each other out very nicely, even in the crossover section. Of course, the crossover could have been better in the DX. It could have been better in the AT. It could have been better in all the Cerwi-vega models. So not even going to go there, because that is the weakest point of it. Okay, let's go down to the basement and look at the big boy. This woofer is so much different than most other woofers that Cerwi-vega made. And, let me see. Let me try and explain this. If you look at the cone on these woofers, this one has riffles like this one had. That one does not. That doesn't make that one better. It makes it maybe a little stiffer. And it is proven that if you have riffles on your cone, the cone gets a little bit stiffer. So that's a good thing. But the cone on this one, it's thicker than the AT. So the stiffness is compensated in the thickness of the cone. And I don't know if you can hear this, but much lower response when I knock on it. So the stiffness is about maybe a little bit better on the DX series, and it has to be. Why? Well, if you take this one out of the cabinet and you look at the motor, the engine, the magnet, whatever you call it, it is huge compared to that one. Huge. And it takes a lot more power, and it gives much more control. Although I like the sound in this one, but if you put these 2 on and do a test, and let's say you turn your amplifier up to 10 o'clock, which is not that loud. I'll call it's like normal listening level. It's not loud at all. But at low volumes, the DX series has a more distinct, more deeper bass response than the AT. You have to go up to 12 o'clock on the volume to get the same exact result from that one as you do with this one, depending on amps here. And this is where things starts to become a little bit weird, because on the paper, the AT is supposed to play louder in SPL. But the cone mass and the cone and the woofer and the basket and the gasket and everything on it it looks just so solid. If you look at the foam, It's the same type of foam, same quality of foam. It though looks like that the DX series has a little bit wider foam than the AT. Not much, just a little bit wider, a little bit bigger foam, which makes it more okay for bigger X mass. Okay, more movement of the cone. And if you look at the shape of the cone on the AT, and you look at the shape of the cone on the DX, it's totally different. Okay, this one is more flat before it goes in. It's kind of like the passage of the cone is different. This one is more steeper right away, and that has something to say on the sound. Because like I told you on the mid range, it is the same on the woofers. Not all frequencies comes from one point of the woofer. Some frequencies comes from the more in the middle, and some comes more in the middle of it, and some on the outside out there. So you have frequencies coming here, here, and here, and the same on this one, here, here, and here. So the shape of the cone will have an effect on how the sound sounds. The biggest thing is, and this is so weird, these are both rated just about the same. They're both like 350, 400 watts in that area. I feel that that's a correct rating for the AT series. Very, very correct. But the AT series can easily take 600 watts without a problem. And with a good amplifier, you will have a lot of headroom. So 400, 350, 400 in RMS, it can take 600 with no problem. However, on the DX series, because of the engine that I call it, the magnet, the size of it, it's vented, it's bigger voice coil, and more X-mass movement. I feel it has more X-mass movement. I feel it can take more power. I think it can take about 25 to 30, maybe 40% more power than the AT. So I think that Cerwi-vega on purpose underrated the DX series when it came to power rating. This is a 400 watt speaker, 350, 400. This should have been, and I'm saying this should have been a 600 watt speaker. On the paper, RMS, specs, from the factory, should have been 600 watts. Because that's what it takes, easily, compared to that one who takes 400. So this one should have been rated at 600 and can easily take 900 without any problems. And with a good amplifier again, you create a lot of headroom. So this should have been a 600 watt speaker, sorry. It should not be the same as the AT because it is more robust. It's built bigger. Everything is bigger. The mid-range is bigger. The tweeter is more, I want to say robust, take more power. And not to mention the woofer. I mean, don't get me wrong. The AT plays with attitude and a lot of bang and plays loud. But I feel that this one on low volume and probably with a more powerful amplifier, this one will give up first, and this one will probably keep on playing. So then you can ask me like, well, why do you like the AT series? Well, that's what I grew up with first, and you know, beside the D series. But I like the looks of it. The only thing that I don't like about the DX series, it looks boring. It looks dull, and I think that Cerwin-vega at one point in 91 when they made this one, because this one came after this one. If you feel it and you look at it, it is a different type of veneer. Well, it's not a veneer. It's a film veneer, vinyl veneer. It has a different feel to it. This one feels harder. It feels more durable. This one feels more like a gaffer tape, you know, like a duct tape. And you can see it down here. Every every DX I see has some kind of issue with edges and corners, and it looks like the AT can handle that way better, even though this is not a real veneer either. You have to go back to the way back to get the veneer, but there is something about this film vinyl veneer on the DX series that I don't like. It's kind of softish, it's kind of sticky. This one is not sticky. This one is sticky. I mean, we're in a non-smoking home. I'm in an isolated room with no cooking grease from a kitchen or anything like that. And the guy who owned it before me, he had it in a dedicated room, and he was the first owner and the only owner, non-smoker. And I've seen it on different DXs before, that it's sticky. Very, very sticky. This one, not. And I have not cleaned these. I have not wiped them down with any rubbing alcohol or anything. I used a like one of those dust devils without anything on them, just to dust them off. So I don't like the looks of it. I like the darker wood better than this. This big grain things here, I like it a little bit more subtle. So that's the only reason I like the AT more. And another thing is, remember what I told you about this? The cone on these is different, and how they project the sound is different. The same with the mids and the same with the tweeters. So it's just a taste. It's a taste thing. What do you think? Here's another thing why I like the AT better. This one, when you put the grill on, it kind of creates this little thing right here. With the AT, it looks more seamless. It looks way more seamless. And I like that look. Well, let me put it like this. I love this look. I like that look. Just because it looks better. That's why I like the AT better. Sound wise, that one can probably play the crap out of that one in SPL, in the bass. Although the AT is louder on paper. But when you look at it like this, let me get out of the picture. When you look at it like this, I like the AT better. And I call it small picky things, such as the little Cerwi-vega emblem logo right there, compared to the little red one down there. You know, there's certain things here and there that to me adds up as better. So that was it. But just remember, the DX series has one of the better mid-ranges that Cerwi-vega has ever made, alongside the VS150. So this is a very, very, very good mid. If you ask me, if you have the chance to buy a pair of DX9 or DX7 for that matter, yes, get either one. They're very good, both of them. I would do it. I have already bought one. If it wasn't for me having to sell a lot of stuff, I probably would have bought myself a pair of DX7 and a pair of DX1. If you're looking for a small speaker that sounds good, D1 and DX1. But DX9, absolutely buy it. If you want a good speaker, buy it. Even if you have to refoam it. Even if you have to recone it. If you can get it for $200, you're making a fantastic deal. They have started right now. They have been kind of like selling for $350. And that's with, you have to refoam them. Lately, locally and 5 to 6, 7 hours away from me, they have gone up. They are now, you're lucky if you find any under 400, and they now trend between 400 and 700 on the local market. You might be able to find someone on eBay for $350, $400, but it's local pickup only. So all prices on Cerwi-vega is going up, and why? because of Gibson's greed on new stuff. So for the ones like us who collect the old stuff, if we have enough, if we sit on enough, your value of your stuff will go up. But of course, if you're looking to get into it and get some old stuff, you will have to pay more. All thanks to Gibson and their greed. Until next time, have a nice day.